Good morning students, welcome to the English lecture today. We are going to start with poem 2 of Flamingo book, that is An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum by Stephen Spender. So students, let us look into some information about the author. Stephen Harold Spender was born on 28 February 1909 and he was an English poet, novelist and essayist who wrote the themes of racial and class inequality. Sir Stephen Harold Spender was educated at University of Oxford, where he first became associated with W. H. Auden, Christopher Isherwood, C. D. Lewis and Louis Macknight. His book 30s and After, published in 1979, mentions these renowned people in his writing. Another publication that is his autobiography, Word Within Word, provides a detailed description of Virginia Woolf, W. B. Yeats, T. S. Eliot, Lady Ottilie Morrell, W. H. Auden, Christopher Isherwood and many other prominent literary figures who were the friends to Stephen. He was appointed the Poet Laureate Consultant in Poetry to the United States Library of Congress in 1965. So, this was about Stephen Spender. Now, let us move and start with the introduction of the poem. So, students, An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum is a poem where the central idea of the poem presents the images of stark poverty and portrays a deprived segment of society that is prevalent throughout the world. It exposes the widespread neglect and exploitation of children belonging to the proletariat class. The poet advocates the cause of social change and human quality with total dedication and supports the cause of the proletariat class. So, here this poem was published in 1964 in Stephen Spender's selected edition of poem in perhaps the best example of Spender's political concerns. The poet reflects the condition of poor children living in the slums who go to an elementary school to study. So, in this poem, we basically deal with the state of the school and the classroom, invokes sympathy for the students, for the children. The government supposed to provide equal opportunities for these children, their education, but the classroom in the slum offers little hope for their education. The poet implores the government and the teachers to provide opportunities that these students can breathe in fresh air and learn new things in healthy environment and can be educated and become the part of the mainstream of the civilized world. So, this is how the poem is, and now let us move to the explanation of the various stanzas of this poem. So, students, let us start with the first stanza here. Now, from this first stanza, the poet describes the unfortunate condition of the slum children. He says that these children are far, far away from the bright life of rich people and the civilized world. They have no hopes in their lives as the condition of their classroom is so dull, gloomy and without any ray, no brightness is there, and this describes that how filthy and gloomy conditions are there in their lives in which they are living and studying and growing. So, their unkept hair around the pale faces. So, here the poet is describing the various students who are sitting in the classroom, how they are looking, and the first student which the boy he is describing here is having unkept hair which was around his pale face, and he seems like a rootless weed, an unwanted person who was not having enough been nourished like rootless weeds. And the tall girl is the second girl who is being portrayed by him. The tall girl looks physically and emotionally exhausted, tired, and without any energy and hope for towards her future, and hardly was been paying attention in the studies. Her weighed down head shows that she is dull and tired. So, we have few more descriptions in this stanza regarding the two more boys which are being described. One is the undernourished boy is as thin as paper. Here the poet has used simile poetic device, where he is describing that the boy is so lean and thin, seems like a paper. His eyes look like those at rat rummaging for food. That means he is just looking everywhere like searching for foods, like rats do that. So, another student in the class is stunted and is a victim of genetic disorder which he has carried forward from his father, and he has inherited it from his father. He suffers from weak bones, and instead of being able to concentrate on his studies, on his books which were lying on his desk, he was just been gaining sympathy of the people who are looking at him, just at the situation or the physical state of his body. He was just been getting sympathy of the poet, and nothing more was been happening around his life. Now, after this line, there is one more last line here. See here, last two lines is describing that the classroom setting is very dim lighted, means there is very less light in the class, and in that dim classroom, at the back of it, a sweet boy remains sitting unnoticed. His mind is lost in the dreams of squirrel's game in a tree room, oblivious of his poverty and classroom. See, the boy was been looking outside the window, and outside the window there was a squirrel which was been playing up and down, moving on the tree house, and the boy was been lost. He was hardly been aware of what's the state of poverty he is into, what are the various deprivations he is been experiencing in his life, and he was been completely lost, probably been dreaming about that he has probably he may at point of time he may go out and he may play like that squirrel, and he may also be able to explore the vast fields of, and he will be the part of the beauty of the nature. So, in this manner he was been dreaming and just visualizing the play of that squirrel which was been there on that tree. Now, the boy seems to be dreaming about the playing in the vast fields just like squirrels do. So, that was all we have already discussed here about the how the boy was been looking forward towards the futuristic aspect, and was just been dreaming and probably imagining his own freedom, that he may someday he may also may play like squirrels. So, now with this, let us move to the stanza 2 here. In stanza 2, the poet describes about how the walls and the arrangement of the classroom is being done. Okay. So, here the walls of the classroom are very unpleasant, they are yellow in color, and the color of the walls is being described with compared with sour cream. Sour cream, that means the cream which has basically rotten up and then it has turned yellow and pale. So, in that gloomy and dull manner those walls are being colored, and that gives another very low and depressing environment to the students. So, see here, the names of the donors are scribbled on them. So, those people who have who have given charity and they have donated amount so that they to run this school, their names are being engraved on the walls. A picture of Shakespeare, clear sky at dawn, dome of monuments showing the growth of civilization. Now, in this manner, there are various pictures which are being there placed on the wall. In amongst those were the scenery where there was a clear sky, and the domes of the monuments which are being showing that how the civilization is growing further. Similarly, there was another scenery where there was a funnel shaped flowery Tyrolese valley which was described, and describing a beautiful world which was being existing outside beyond the classroom, and are all put up on the walls of the classroom. Now, these pictures which were being there on the walls of the classroom were quite tempting. Now, another thing which was there was the map on the wall shows a world outside which is beyond the reach of these children. See, the map is being, you can say it is a metaphor for the world which is beyond, where these children cannot actually reach out and go and look into that civilized world and those significant and important places which are being prominently located on that map. Whereas, where they are being situating, where they are being locating, that particular position was not been existing in that map, showing that their existence is hardly been, it has been marginalized, it has been ignored by the civilized world, and they are actually not the part of this civilized world. So, probably that particular aspect has been drawn by the poet from this particular picture of map which has been there on the classroom. The world in which they live offers no hope to them, as it is blurred like fog, and their lives are sealed inside the streets covered with pollution. Now, this is the state of life, how they are living into, how they are dwelling, the streets, the lanes in which their houses are, where they are residing, are completely dull, full of lots of dirt and filth and debris and pollution. And similarly, there is hardly any hope, hardly any ray of bright sun, nothing is there to be hopeful about. So, that is how they are living into. The map, which signifies knowledge and travel, is quite in contrast with the life of these children, who do not even mandatory education facilities are being given to them. So, basically this is a contrasting situation. You are one side of the civilization where they are affluent, they are rich, they are having access to all the facilities of their basics as well as the amenities they wanted. So, that is the civilized world, and these children who are just looking at that world from the window which has been created by these pictures which are being placed on the walls of the classroom, but basically they are not able to access to that particular world, and that is quite contrasting. As we can see, these children are being deprived of the basic facilities, even the education is not being imparted in a right manner to these children. So, now let us move to the next stanza here, that is the stanza. Okay, so let us move to stanza 3 now. In stanza 3, the picture of Shakespeare and the map displayed on the classroom wall remind the children that of their deprivation and tempt to commit crime, so that they can access the world they have never seen. See, in these two lines, basically the poet wants to bring in the notice of the reader that probably these pictures are very tempting to the students, and they are being fascinated towards that richer civilized world which calls them or it attracts them, and because of that temptation, these boys, these children are trying to access it in any manner, whatever they want, by hook or by crook, or in any manner, even they can indulge in crime just to access to that civilized world and be the part of that and become rich and come out of their deprivation and poverty. So, that is how the poet has described that these children are required to be taken care by the civilized world, or else they will become juvenile criminal, or they will become antisocial elements over the time, and then it will be a troublesome aspect for the civilized world itself. So, now here they live in abject and perpetual poverty, confined in their cramped and filthy dwellings without any ray of hope. See, their existing condition, the way they are dwelling, they are residing, their slums, their houses are so filthy, they are so gloomy, dull and deprived, not having basic facilities to live even. So, that has been taken all the ray of hope from their lives, and that is why that is going to make them to finally that perpetual poverty, means the poverty which is existing from quite many generations probably and may continue for their next life. So, they want to find out solutions, and since they are hardly having any facilities for education or the basic amenities of life. So, in that case they may take another antisocial ways of coming out of that poverty. So, they are so skinny that their bones can be easily seen from inside their skins. So, this is the condition, this is the physical state which has been described by the poet in this line, that they are so lean, so malnourished, undernutrished, so that they are not being even fed properly, they are not getting enough food, and that is why their skin is just covering their bones and their bones just peep out. They just it seems that they are just coming out of the skin, and someday they will just tear it out and the bones will be out. So, this is the physical state of these children, and that is so concerning, and it is really important to take care of these this section of the society. So, this is how the poet has described these lines. Let us move to further few more lines in this stanza. They are weak sighted, do not even have good spectacles to study. So, this is how the children are been fighting with their deprivation. They are not having enough means to study further. The spectacles are being there, but they are being steel rimmed. See, they have managed with steel rimmed spectacles with glasses broken like bottle bits on stones and mended here and there. The condition of their spectacles is so depressing. It is, they are being broken, the glasses are being cracked, and they are still managing, they are still trying to read from that very spectacle, which is not even enough to give them enough facility to read into that book. So, basically this shows that how deprived they are, how much poverty stricken they are. So, their misfortune appears to be absolute and ineradicable. Absolute means complete absence of facilities and money and basic amenities of education, as well as ineradicable means that cannot be eradicated just because of their own, you can say they cannot do it on their own, somebody has to do it for them. Okay. So, now all their time is confined to dark and foggy slums. The slums are so foggy, they are misty, they are full of pollution and they are dark. These slums are black spots and a question mark on the growing human civilization. So, basically the poet is putting a question mark on the civilization which has been richer section of the human race, and they are being under question that what you can do and how you are going to bring to cover up these black spots of human civilization. Okay. Now, let us move to stanza 4 here. In stanza 4, the poet is trying to bring the situation which he has described in last 3 stanzas in front of the authorities, and he wants to beg these authorities to come and look into the situation prevailing, and then finally do something and bring a change in the lives of these children. So, see here, the speaker begs the authorities to save these children from their dead like state, confined in catacombs like slums. The slums are being compared with catacombs. The catacombs are the underground graves which are being dug, and these are being, their slums are being compared with those graves which is like in the state where there is no life, lifeless state is there in their slums, and that is why these children need to be freed of all bondages with their world linked to the civilized world, so that the happiness and prosperity can be brought to them. Now, what the poet wants here is, he wants to bring a social change. He wants to bring the change in their life and the standard of living as well as the state of poverty. He wants them to be the part of the civilized world, so that happiness and prosperity becomes the part of their life. So, that is how he wants to bring the change, and for that reason he is trying to bring all these aspects in front of the various authorities of that particular area. If these children are allowed free education and expression, they will become enlightened and empowered like the sun, and will create history. So, this is what he is being futuristic about, that if suppose we are being able to allow these children with education, with proper amenities, with food, with the basic requirements of the life, probably these children will also become some educated and empowered students with lots of enlightenment, and finally they will be hopeful about their lives, and they will also do something significant and important for the human race, and will finally create a remarkable achievement they will be able to make in their lives, and that will create the history. So, in this manner he has described here. Now, let us move to the critical appreciation explanation of this particular section here. The stunted unlucky hair, see here, this particular part has been a special aspect here. A child in the classroom of the slum school has not attained his proper height because of malnutrition, and is also suffering from a disease of twisted bones. He fails to recite his lesson from his desk when he tries to, and gains sympathy from the reader. So, students, we have seen the explanation of all 4 stanzas of the poem. Now, let us discuss the theme of the poem. So, students, the theme of this poem, that is an elementary school classroom in a slum, is that it portrays the plight and deprivation of the children living in a slum. It shows the ill-equipped classrooms and malnourished and diseased children sitting in it. They are unable to concentrate on their studies and on their lessons being taught in their class, and are unable to relate with the study. So, this is how the theme of the poem is being described by the poet. So, students, now let us move to the forms and structure. Those are the poetic devices of this poem. So, these forms and structures which are there, which are being used by the poet in this poem. Now, let us start here with that lot of imagery and the figure of speeches which are being there in the poem. Let us discuss one by one. First one are the symbols, and you can find the first example of this poetic device being used is in stanza 1 line 2. See here in stanza 1 line 2, this rootless weeds is an imagery, and it has been a symbolic representation. It refers to children who have become as rootless as unwanted weeds and are pulled out from the mainstream society. Roots are here means the very foundation of any structure. So, here you can underline rootless weeds in stanza 1 line 2. You may please underline here. Okay. Now, let us move to stanza 2 and line 6. Here again the poet has used the symbolism, and see here these words, you can refer to stanza 2 line 6. So, stanza 2 line 6, here we have these words, futures painted with fog. You can underline this line in your book, and it refers to the unclear and bleak future which the children have. So, let us move to the next one, that is in stanza 4 line 6. You may please underline stanza 4 line 6. Run away on gold sands with white. You can underline all these 3 lines here, like run away on gold sands and let their tongues run naked into books, the white and green leaves open. So, up till here complete these 2 lines are being the example of symbolism which is being used by the poet. See here, the Oze symbolizes a clear and unpolluted sky. Gold symbolizes prosperity and happiness. White symbolizes purity and clarity here in these lines. Now, one more symbolism is being used in the same stanza, stanza 4, underline line 8, sun. This word is another symbol here being used as a symbol of bright future of slum children. So, this is also symbolism. Okay. Now, another poetic device which has been nicely used by the poet here is metaphor. And now, let us move again back to stanza 1 here, just a moment. Okay, here. See here, this line in stanza 1 line 3 and 4, the paper seeming boy with rat's eyes. This is from stanza 1 line 3 and 4. Here the poet has used a metaphor and he has compared a very lean and thin boy with a paper line. Okay. Another example is from stanza 2 line 6. You can mark these words over there, their futures painted with a fog. This is from stanza 2 line 6. You underline these lines here. Again a metaphor is being used by the poet here, and this fog is being described with the pollution and the filth and dirt which has been existing in their dwellings, and their future is being, complete life is being filled with that pollution and mist. Again you please move to the next line. See, in same stanza 2 line 7, here in this line, sealed in with a lead sky. So, this is again a line where the poet has used metaphor poetic device. Now, one more example here is the D part here, which is been in stanza 3. So, look into stanza 3 in line 5. Stanza 3 line 5 here is, where skins peep through by bones and spectacles of steel. In this line again the poet has used a metaphor and he has compared the deprivation, the physical state, a lean and thin physical state of the children with a cover of skin which has been peeped out by the bones. So, in this manner here again the metaphor has been used. Now, let us move to one more poetic device which is being used here by the poet, that is simile. Okay, yes. Simile means again there is a comparison, similarity is being established by the poet by using word like or as. Now, here see here in stanza 1. In stanza 1 line 2 again the poet has used here like rootless weed. So, here again he has used a simile. In next you can see in stanza 3, please move to stanza 3 and you mark the line 6 here. See here in line 6, like bottle bits on stone. Here again the poet has used simile. Similarly, in stanza 4, look into stanza 4 line 3. Stanza 4 line 3, see here that shuts upon their lives like catacombs. So, here finally, the poet has again used very nicely a simile where he is establishing similarity between the slums and the catacomb, which is being the graveyards. Okay. So, let us move to one more poetic device, that is repetition here, and see in stanza 2 line 8. In stanza 2 line 8 as well as in stanza 1 line 1. See here, there are repetitions, far far from gusty, like this is from stanza 1 line 1, far far from where the poem starts. Similarly, stanza 2 line 8, here also the repetition has been done very nicely by the poet, far far from rivers. Okay, there is one more example of repetition which is which exists in stanza 4 line 4. Please mark it, stanza 4 line 4, you may underline it again. Break, oh break open till they break the town. Here again the break word has been repeated number of times, 3 times in this line. So, there again a repetition poetic device is being used by the poet. Now, one more poetic device is being the alliteration, which is being used here. See, the first alliteration is in stanza 2 line 8, far far from, and similarly in stanza 1 line 1, these two both the places the similar alliteration is being used. The consonant sound F is being repeated 3 times and consecutively in 3 words. So, this is how F is being the consonant word here. And one more place, that is in stanza 3 line 6, stanza 3 line 6, please underline the spectacles of steel. Spectacles of steel, here again the poet has used alliteration, the consonant S sound is being repeated by the in these 2 words. So, this is how the poet has used very nicely about the alliteration and the repetition and various other metaphor, other poetic devices which he has nicely put into the poem to finally bring that beautiful description, not we can say rather a description of those poverty stricken children who are sitting in that gloomy classroom in front of the authorities, and he has made the reader aware about the conditions of those children in this poem. So, hopefully students, you must have understood about the poem. So, students, hopefully you must have understood the chapter, sorry rather poem we can say, and we will deal with all sorts of doubt. I would suggest you please read, go through the poem, view the video again, and wherever you come across with any sorts of doubts, we will deal with those doubts in the live doubt session. Thank you students, stay safe and stay healthy at your homes.